Okay, I'd like to get this meeting to get this meeting underway. I would like to adjourn this meeting, but no, I'd like to get this meeting underway. I will take a motion to approve the minutes of June 7, 2021.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Approval of minutes of July 6, 2021.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Appointments, recognitions, and resignations. Consideration of transferring Public Works Department employee Decatur French from his current position as a refuse packer truck driver to the vacant MEO1 position effective July 19, 2021 at a pay rate of $21.56 per hour during the mandatory 6-month probationary rate, increasing to the regular rate of $22.69 per hour after successful completion of the probationary period.
I would move the transfer of Mr. French under the terms presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
That'll create an opening in the refuse packer.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it goes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Changing deck chairs.
Jeff, we're taking applications.
Very good. Thank you.
So consent agenda, Hancock County Commissioners Special Meeting Minutes of June 15, 2021. Hancock County Commissioners Regular Meeting Agenda of July 6, 2021. Action Plan from Sustainability Committee and MRC information on PERC bypass of municipal solid waste.
Would move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Yeah, all in favor? Selectmen's reports. Any selectmen's reports?
I did just have one item. It's more of a reminder. It's the broadband committee, and I gotta pull it up on my phone here so I make sure I've got it correct here. Hold on, if I'm talking about the broadband committee, I can't even figure out my own phone here.
You're telling about the meeting?
Yeah, next Tuesday at 5:30 here, we'll have a meeting and there's a Zoom link on the website. And it's just sort of an initial public meeting to get some feedback, sort of like what we did 5 or 6 years ago about how satisfied people are with their internet service. So this is the first in several meetings over the next several months. And there's also a little survey that you can do. You probably got it with your tax bill. And if that ended up in the trash, you can go online to the town website and do it online as well. So
Had a pretty good response, though.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So I would like to take item 7A out of order here. This is a discussion of Forest Hill Cemetery Charter Amendment.
Rick is here, to talk about that.
I'm a trustee. I don't know how much information you have, but I can give you a summary of what's going on. Forest Hill Cemetery was organized and initiated in 1904. It's at go to the gatehouse, you go straight in, for those of you that have never been there. It's a nice cemetery, has 3 to 5 volunteers as trustees. Nobody gets paid. We do hire a lawnmower and pay for water and well and a small amount of electricity. We've had 2 tragic losses of trustees. Ken Savage was a trustee and died in 2017. My son was a trustee and died last year. They were both treasurers. We've had to reorganize some legal aspects of our incorporation. And our attorney tells us that anything that was organized after 1896, and I think I've got that date right, has to have a designated recipient if we should go bankrupt or go out of business. We were organized in 1904. It never occurred to us until we started trying to clean up some of our legal paperwork. So the existing trustees, which are Bob Paul, myself, Buddy Brown, and my daughter, Laura, decided that the town of Mount Desert would be the logical caretaker of the cemetery. And that's why I'm here. So, I can show you a map for those of you who don't know. We have solvent right now and probably will be for a long time. I've been a trustee since 1979, and believe it or not, we used to actually have to go sign a note for $5,000 a year to pay the groundskeeper, and then try to send out $7 bills to lot owners. That worked fine until you went to the next generation, and some grandchild saw a bill and said, well, I'm not paying this, but you can't stop mowing. So that's the dilemma we're in. Years ago, Ruth Jordan, for those of you who knew, she was a stalwart figure in the town of Mount Desert, left us $50,000, an unbelievable sum of money at the time. And it really put us in the black, and we've been able to stay there since then. So the town of Mount Desert does have about 10 designated lots up there for town. I don't know how is the right word, Joe? Indigents? Or,
Yes, yeah.
yeah,
Overseer of the poor is one of my
overseer of
titles.
the poor.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you're obviously have an interest in the cemetery. And we have about, I'm going to say 200 lots still for sale. The expansion as it is right now is done. We take some real tricky groundwork to add a few more lots, but right now it's pretty much built as it is. So anyway, Joan suggested that we bring it to the selectmen, and I suspect that you did say it probably have to go to town meeting.
yeah. Patrick Lyons is the one that drafted the documents that you did. He's from Eaton Peabody, and he is on the Zoom. I saw his name up there. Patrick, do you have anything to add above and beyond what Rick has already given the board for information?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, for a town, as the memo says that I drafted for the board's consideration, state statute is very explicit as far as the steps the town would need to take to agree to receive the cemetery in the event that the association were to dissolve, which from all accounts sounds like that's not a concern as they're doing well. But in order to do so, you just need the town's legislative body to approve that according to state statute. So that's your town meeting. And the only other thing I would add is if the board does decide to proceed down this path, then we'd also want to have a separate agreement, kind of like a purchase and sale agreement that provides the town some protections regarding due diligence and to issues such as, environmental liabilities, providing good title, those standard provisions. But other than that, it's relatively straightforward, and I'm happy to answer any other questions, but it seems like it's more of a, if the select board decides that's how they'd like to proceed, we can help draft a warrant article for your next town meeting. And there's a few additional steps you'd have to take beyond what you normally do for town meeting. It's not onerous. I think it's recording with the agreement with the town clerk, a month vote. And then, and then, as I said, we'd also want to consider the separate agreement to make sure that just proper due diligence is done.
Do we need a motion?
Yes,
We have a motion that you'd like to have an article drafted for the town meeting of May 22, and we'll proceed from there. That is your.
So move.
Seconded.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Appreciate that.
Unfinished business. Back to 6A, consideration of execution and conveyance of an easement from the town of Mount Desert and the Great Harbor Maritime Museum, also known as the Great Harbor Collection, Inc., to Versant Power and Consolidated Communications of Northern New England Company, LLC, doing business as Consolidated Communications, NNE, said easement to be used for overhead and underground utility purposes.
The museum has signed, and what you do, you want to have a vote to authorize you folks to sign, and we have the document ready for you to sign tonight. So we can finally put the easement business to rest here.
I move signature.
I would second that. I wish this could have happened sooner rather than now.
I'm glad to see
All
it
in-
Yes.
resolved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank
Marina-
you, board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marina Project, Garden Club of Mount Desert.
So moving forward on that, you get that memo from landscape architect Tony and John Lemoyne are working to gather up those documents
Mhm.
that he has requested. So that should not be a problem. We should be able to find those fairly easily. We get these
great.
easily.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that, Rick?
I'm not.
For the garden club had offered to take a look at our landscaping and our bench placements and all of that, and come up with a comprehensive plan to make things more orderly and in a rational business, much like what
Great.
they,
It's never come before the highway commission.
I should, if you want to, at your next meeting, I'll send that memo,
That would be good.
tickle my memory at the time, because you're not meeting until September.
We won't meet again until
Yeah.
September.
So, but anyway, I think they very graciously have put money into doing all of this. So things have started. I don't know which one of you select board members brought it up. That things-
I think I did,
You did,
yeah.
Martha. Both things were starting to get to look a little bit like a hodgepodge. And so to try to straighten that out and give it some order and rationality. So I think that would be great. We did a wonderful job landscaping down around the buildings.
Very good.
So anyway, thank very much Ellie Andrews and all of the other members of the garden club for willing to tackle this project.
That's great.
And to provide some financial support for it as well. So, great.
How did, and just a question about how did they decide on this particular landscape architect?
You know, I don't know whether.
I just
he-
was surprised to see it based in Lakeland, Florida. I mean,
Whether
I just-
he's somebody that.
Maybe he's
Probably
a
a
summer
friend
person.
of some-
I don't know. I just was interested.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure.
Okay.
How that, or whether he worked on the original project down there.
Okay.
You know, I'm not absolutely sure. Sorry.
No, that's, I just was,
But anyway. Or maybe he's even a summer resident.
it could be. That would make more sense. I mean, the phone number looks like the cell phone number listed there is a 207 number. So anyway, I don't know.
So
It
do you
doesn't,
need us to?
Palm
vote to
trees and
proceed?
pink flamingos.
No, I would
Well,
think it
no, I
wouldn't be
just-
hard
we
to
have-
put your
Okay.
good.
landscape
Yeah.
architects that live in the town of Mount Desert. I know.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to proceed with the garden club's.
I would
project.
move that we authorize or request the garden club to move ahead with these plans with many thanks. We're anxious to see what comes of this.
Mhm.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, new business, item B, discussion of short-term rentals in the town of Mount Desert.
We've got Noel and Kim here. That was a request by Martha.
Yeah.
To have a discussion, so have a discussion.
well, actually, I just wanted to bring it forward. I don't think that it's this body that would be in charge of figuring this out.
No, it would be the
The planning board and the
and
Luso
the Luso.
committee.
I think you would have to decide whether you wanted the planning board and the Luso committee to tackle such a project. That direction would come from you folks.
Do you want me to weigh in?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Well, I think it's definitely an interesting challenge. I guess the way I would suggest the town approach the question is, first of all,
For just a second, would you be willing to step closer to
Yeah,
the
sure.
camera and mic right there?
always, how's that, center stage?
Yeah.
So as I was saying, I think just having had a little experience with the process and the question, the way I would suggest approaching it is first, let's try to seek to get a common understanding of what the issues are, what's the data, like what are we facing? What are the potential issues that come with that? And then really trying to come up with some consensus-based approach about how to deal with it. And there are two issues. One is sort of a land use issue. That's where the ordinances come in. And then there's more of a health and safety and registration side. So that would be more of a license question. So there's a few ways to approach the question. But before we come up with solutions, I think the best process is really to try to come to some agreement on, okay, here are the issues that we're trying to address from the question. And then here's the solutions to help with that. You know, I would say, just putting on my dorky planner hat, it's an island-wide question, really,
Yes.
more than it is just in Mount Desert or Harbor or Tremont or Southwest Harbor question, because it's just gonna trickle around the island, and I think it's just, I think it's a thing to think about more comprehensively, because that's not what we're doing here. But so if you want us to tackle it if you want to put it on my work plan, I'm happy to do that, and then just sort of kind of proceed with the process. We got to do some research. We've done a little bit already, and I know other people have too, but it's more, you know, here's what we're facing. You know, here's what the research is saying about, you know, short-term rentals effect on affordability or availability, and how that is or isn't an effect on the housing market. And then, you know, if you want to regulate.
From the little bit of data I've seen, it's not as big a problem in our town as it is on some other parts of the island, but it's coming.
Yeah, I think,
And we have no regulations in place,
Yep.
as I understand it now, so it seems to me this is the time to be at least considering what our options are and what we might put in place.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
think
getting
it's
ahead of it.
Good to be proactive. Yep, and then, you know, trying to take the emotion out of the question now. I mean, we're not like up against it, so you can really start to think about it as a community-wide issue and figure out what your options are. And there's a full range. I mean, I think Derlin included like 2 or 3 or 4 examples in your packets, and that, you know, one of them was a license. The other ones are more ordinance-based, and I think really, you know, more successful are a little bit of both.
Mhm.
And also, you know, working with either, you know, there's administrative things we have to consider. If you're tracking, there's staff time involved.
Right.
Can you use outside support for that, or can you partner with the listing agencies that actually do that, because there's some incentive there. But for me, it's really a kind of a consensus-based approach, because that helps take the emotion out. We can all agree these are the issues we're trying to solve, and these are the solutions to that.
Mhm.
And then, you know, working in that process.
Yeah.
That's my high level.
I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'd like to look at, I mean, I think there are several, if the problem we're trying to solve is finding sort of more year-round housing stock.
Always.
Yeah, you know, you have to know things like, you were talking about doing some of this background research, because how many of these sort of seasonal rentals would actually be affordable
Right.
year-round rentals, or how many are even adequately winterized?
Yep.
The items like that, and then I'm just gonna throw some ideas out there, but just things I've been thinking about today is, you know, it's easy to penalize people, but is there a way to incentivize people, whether it be with some kind of property tax credit or something, if they're on the fence about, gee, I'd like to do weekly rentals in the summer, but you know, if I got something, some property tax relief, maybe it would sway me the other direction just to go with a year-round rental. And I think the other elephant in the room is, you know, I think like Bar Harbor has said they want to get down to like 10% of their housing stock is sort of rental or seasonal rental or weekly rental, however they define it. You know, you can pick any number, but the other way to attack that is just to increase your housing stock. And when you look at large swaths of land, I don't know if the map is still up here, but in 5-acre and 3-acre zoning, you have to say, well, we have a limited amount of land. Is that a way that we could figure out creatively to create more housing stock?
Right, so I think that's the primary basis of the first part of the question, which is let's identify the challenge, the problem that we're trying to address. And is this one of the causes of those problems? If it is, we can find some tools to deal with that. But I think the conversation at the beginning is actually going to identify, things like we're talking about, like affordability and housing supply and those kinds of things are problems no matter what. This may contribute to that. And it also contributes potentially to, changes in neighborhood character and those kinds of things. So that's where you're thinking about it from the land use perspective, but then the licensing perspective actually might be a tool that you can use to help you solve some of the other problems that you identified through the beginning part of the process. But it doesn't have to be overly burdensome. It doesn't have to be, I understand the issues, and I just understand there's a lot of people who have been doing weekly rentals or vacation rentals for a long time, and partially it's so they can afford to come up here and be here, or partially is my grandmother used to rent her house in Bar Harbor actually when she was alive, so she could stay there. But
And it's been a
but then there's-
tradition always for people to rent theirs, go to camp in the summer, whatever it
Exactly.
is. And
Yeah.
that, I don't see that as a big problem.
But-
Yeah, so there's different kinds.
Yeah.
There's owner occupied rentals, there's temporary, and then there's permanent or business.
Well, that's what I think for my 2 cents, that's the biggest challenge that we could potentially face island-wide is more and more of these properties being bought up by people that never intend to live there.
Yep,
And that, I believe, could be pretty clearly looked at and addressed to reduce the number of homes that go on the market and are sold to people that never intend to live there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And those things can be, legislated.
yeah.
Locally.
License is-
Right, I mean,
You guys
and-
know the license tool is a good.
And I also-
licensing tool.
I also think that this town is, unique to the island in more ways than just, I don't know what, because we're not Bar Harbor. We're not primarily a commercial town. And so I think there are some unique qualities to this town that we need to continue to preserve. And
Yeah.
We do have a lot of summer residents and that, so it seems a little bit almost hypocritical to be saying, well, we don't want more temporary people.
Right, well, that's the challenge of,
Yeah.
Mount Desert is unique, and also that it is half of, the middle half of the island, or however you think about it, but it goes
Right.
all the way across the island, whereas other
Yeah.
towns are a little more. But, from the land use side, it makes the conversation a little more interesting and challenging. So what are the effects of this in different parts of your community? I don't know yet, but, fundamentally, from a land use perspective, it's still a residential use. And it's just how you think about that as a residential use. It's the use is the same. So that's why the land use tool isn't always the most effective tool.
Okay.
But,
Interesting.
it's a really tough and emotional conversation. But I think if we start with, let's understand what it is we're trying to solve. What are the problems we need to identify? And then we can start to look at tools. And there's all kinds of models out there. If you're really interested, you could look, and I could send you guys some articles too, but New Orleans has been dealing with this issue forever, and they have a lot of good case studies. California has some stuff, I mean, we don't, but you take, the beauty of planning is you don't have to reinvent the wheel sometimes. You just tailor some solutions to meet your specific, goals. But there's just it's a big topic everywhere. So we can use that information to try to come up with something that works for Mount Desert. But I would also put the plug in that it is not just a Mount Desert problem. This is one of those,
absolutely not.
this is a problem that makes you realize that NDI is more of a community than just the towns that are in it. I mean, all it's gonna do is push the problem to other towns that aren't thinking about it yet. So it would be great to kind of think about something eventually for everyone.
But I think the point is here that we want to get the conversation started now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll put some
I agree to
scope, thought into it, here's
Great.
how we should start, and then.
And I think I speak for myself, but I think the board feels this way, and I think the community does, that what we're really most concerned about is preserving a year-round community in our town.
Mhm.
Yeah, Right, well, if that's the starting point, then we'll start to think about also what are ways that you can help create that, vision. This may be one option, but there's a lot of other ones too.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
you.
thanks.
Thanks. Great, thank you, everyone. Okay. 7C, item 7C, update personnel policy to conform to changes in the American Rescue Plan Act. These changes repeal our current temporary amendments.
The temporary amendments that we put in were under the CARES Act, and the CARES Act has been replaced by the American Rescue Plan. Most of it is pretty similar. There are a few changes in there that it does repeal the automatic work at home.
Mhm.
That goes away. It also, let's see here. There really isn't a lot. It's about 95% what we're currently doing. Let's see here. It does add a second 2 weeks. The people had 2 weeks that they could use under the CARES Act, and that expired after April 1st. And there is another 2 weeks that is allowed in here for people after April 1st. So that goes, and this temporary amendment does have a sunset date on it of September 30th. So that, unless it's extended or replaced again, all of this goes away here in about 6 weeks. But I just wanted to get what is in our policy now consistent with the American Rescue Act. So that's all that these changes really do. Pretty much the same.
So do we need a motion then?
Motion is to repeal and to replace.
So moved, repeal and replace the personnel policy to agree and coincide with the American Rescue Plan Act.
Yes, that's all you need.
Second.
Great. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Other business, any other business? Treasurer's warrants. Okay, warrants for approval and signature. Town invoice AP 2175 and AP 2202 for a total of $1,311,331.10.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Warrants to be signed. Treasurer's payroll, state fees, payroll benefits. Unit for a total of $165,205.95.
Move signature.
Second,
All in favor? And school invoices 01 and school payroll 01 for a grand total of $205,323.87.
Move acknowledgement.
second.
All in favor?
Taking a little shortcut now.
Yes.
Why not?
Right. I will take a motion for adjournment.
So move.
All in favor?
Nobody's seconding. I'll
Okay,
second.
second. All in favor?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're in such a rush.
No, that wasn't too bad.